ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। शान्तिः शान्तिः। ओम सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रपात् स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलम् पुरुष एवेदं सर्वं यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यम् उतामृतत्वस्येषानः यदन्नेनातिरोहति एतावानस्य महिमा अतोऽज्यायागश्च पूरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वाभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवि त्रिपादूर्ध्वौ दैत्पुरुषः पादोऽस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामत् शासनान शने अभि। We were looking at the Purusha Sukta, the first rig, the meaning of that we saw already, where Purusha is presented as the one who has limitless eyes and limitless legs, and the one who is pervading this entire Srishti, but not just pervading the Srishti itself, but the one who transcends this creation and still exists. Even when the Srishti is there, this Purusha is the one who is manifest as all that is there here. But even if the Srishti becomes unmanifest, when it is not there, let us say, it has gone into a potential state, still that Purusha alone is there. So that is the, that's what we saw here. This was presented in the first rik itself as the very nature of this Purusha. Now that itself now is explained further in the next rik also. Purusha eva idam sarvam. Okay, this idagum is really a way of chanting, that's all. Really it is idam sarvam only. But while chanting in Krishna Yajurveda, if the Anuswara is followed by Sakara or Shakara and all those things, then they chant it as Gum. So that is the rule. So each Veda has its own certain rules. It is not for normal Sanskritam. These are all Vedic chanting rules. So the idam becomes idagam. So Purusha ye vedagum sarvam, like that we chant, but it is, when you split the words, it is simply Purusha eva idam sarvam. So Purusha alone, eva kara also is there. Only Purusha alone is all this. Whatever is available as this for us. Because the world itself can be divided into only two things. I and this. Correct? Subject and object. Everything which you encounter is available as this for you. Yushmad, Asmad. Like that also. So that which can be indicated as this and that which is indicated as I. Only two things are there in this world. In fact, even Bhashyakara starts Brahmasutra Bhashya itself like that only. So he starts with Yushmad, Asmad, Pratyaya, Gocharayoho, Vishaya, Vishayinoho. So Vishaya and Vishayi. Vishaya means an object of knowledge. Vishayi is the subject. The entire world can be divided into subject and object. to the subject, all the objects become evident. And all the objects which are evident as this, those objects are nothing but this Purusha alone. So since there are so many objects, or the cause of all these objects also cannot be one. Like that also there can be a doubt, correct? Because in the world we see so many objects. Like a pot means the cause of the pot is a potter. Or if you see a watch, then there is a watchmaker. If you see a cloth, there is a weaver. So like this, each object, the maker is different. And of course, the material out of which it is made also is different. So the material cause is different. The intelligent cause is different. And for each object, they are also different. That's what we see in the world. But what about the entire universe itself? Is it like that? Are there many causes? Means no. Purusha alone, Purusha eva, evakara is there. All that is here, all that is available as this idam is all this Purusha only. What, okay, idam is this present, vartamanam you can say, correct? Now what about whatever has passed or what is going to come? Means all that also is this Purusha only, yad bhutam, yad cha bhavyam. So bhutam means whatever is past, bhavyam means whatever is going to come in future. So previously, if you see the previous rik, you can say talked about the Purusha as pervading everything spatially. Then what about time? Means here immediately time-wise also Purusha is limitless. Purusha pervades all periods of time. Means essentially the Purusha is free of space-time. Is that clear? That is what is being pointed out here. Initially it was spatially it was pointed out. Time-wise also now it is being pointed out that this Purusha is the one who pervades all three periods of time. All the objects which are there in all periods of time are nothing but this Purusha alone. Is that clear? So that is being pointed out. Again, the same doubt can come. If Purusha has become all these things, is the Purusha still left or not? Because whenever we see, when we say that something has become something, like the milk has become curd, then there is no more milk. Milk is gone. Milk has become curd, correct? So what about the curd then? Milk has become curd. That is what we call parinami upadana karana. Parinami means what? The material cause changes itself and becomes something else, the effect. Milk was there and milk modified itself or it became changed into curd. Once it has become curd, milk itself is not there anymore. So is it like that? Does this Purusha lose himself or herself while becoming all this entire world? Means no. That is the beauty of Vivarta Upadana, we say. Vivarta Upadana means what? So, Swarupa Aparityagena Rupantara Apattihi, we say. Swarupa Aparityagena. Without giving up one's own nature, it has become all these things, all these names and forms. It has become without giving up one's own nature. Swarupa Aparityagena Rupantaraha Apattihi, obtaining another form. Like even the gold, being gold only, has become the bangle, has become the chain, has become the earring. Any number of jewelry, it can become, it can obtain, it can take up different names and forms, but it is still gold alone. Like that, this Purusha is the one who is everything, not only spatially, but even that which was, that which is, that which will be, time-wise also. Purusha is everything, but still this Purusha is there always, without losing its own nature. So that's why it is immortal. In fact, it's not even subjected to space-time. That which is not subjected to space-time, that in which space-time is appearing. Space-time is only an appearance. How can I understand that? Yeah, whenever you dream, you are creating your own new space-time. Understand that. It is not a very big deal. You can create an entire space-time, live your whole life in that, and finally you went to the forest, let us say, and a tiger started chasing you. You run desperately, and then you wake up sweating and all that, let us say. So then what do you understand? Abba, that tiger is really only in the dream. This whole dream world was only my projection. It's all my creation. I am safe here in my bed. I don't have to worry. Like that, space-time you can create. You can create n number of things. You can create animate, inanimate, sentient, insentient. Everything is there in your dream world also. There are many sentient beings are also there, including the tiger. But all that is only one Chaitanyam, correct? It is all projection in one conscious being alone. That is you, in fact. So we can understand this very easily, that space-time is in me. I am not in space-time. That is the whole problem. In the waking world, when does all your problems start? As soon as you wake up, you think you are an individual, correct? All problems start. Because as soon as you become an individual, you are limited. The world is so big. You are so puny. So what? Then you have to struggle against this huge world. Life is a struggle then. If you are looking upon yourself as a limited being, it will be a problem. But what is the reality? The reality is that the individuality comes and goes, correct? It is not your real nature. That's what you have to understand. You have taken yourself for granted all these days. In fact, everybody around you gave you this identity also. You are so and so, you are the son of so and so, you are a male, you are a female, you belong to this varna, you belong to this country, this race. So many identities we all have, and we take that very seriously. But all those identities, do they belong to me really? Is it my nature? Are they part of my nature? That which is part of your nature means it should never go away from you. That alone can be your nature, correct? Something, if it goes and comes, it is not your nature, it is something incidental. Let us say a crow is sitting on a house. Now that is also useful, correct? If I want to show you a particular house in the street, how do I show? I say, see that house where the crow is sitting, that is your house, or whatever, that is the house you want to go to. So one guy is searching for an address. And then how do we point out the address? We say wherever the crow is sitting. In fact, the crow need not be even sitting now. If both of you have seen a crow which was sitting sometime before also, that is good enough, correct? You can still point out saying whichever house the crow was sitting on, That is the house you have to go. So to point out something, incidental attributes are good enough. That is what we in Sanskritam we say tatastha lakshanam. So this individuality also is incidental. Why I am saying it is incidental? Because it comes and goes. Only in the waking you have a certain individuality. In dream you can take up a totally different individuality. In waking you are a king. In the dream you become a beggar, or let us say the other way around, whichever way you want you can keep. So individuality is not the same. In fact, in deep sleep there is no individuality, but I am there, understand that. So you cannot confuse I with the individual. I am always there. I as a conscious being is the invariable. Everything else comes and goes. Everything else is a variable. Whatever is available as this is always a variable. But whatever is available as I is invariable, because I is the invariable subject, conscious being to which everything becomes evident. But the tragedy is that in every cognition, we miss out this invariable. The invariable is taken for granted. And we are more interested in the object of knowledge, whatever is known through that cognition. All focus is on that. We do not recognize the invariable consciousness, the conscious being, which is also the basis for every cognition, to which everything becomes evident. That conscious being is immortal. Why? Because it is not even subjected to space-time. Anything in space-time will end with space-time, correct? It has to come to an end. But this conscious being who spans across all periods of time, across all cognitions, that conscious being cannot be destroyed. Why? In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, this point only Bhagavan starts with the entire teaching. Because Arjuna's problem was everybody is going to die because of this battle. And all good people, dharmic people also will die in that. And now I have to fight and kill people like Bhishma and Drona. Then what will happen? It's a problem. So Bhagavan says, don't worry about things for which you should not be really worrying. Why? Because Atma never dies. He directly teaches the Atma Swarupa only first. So since Atma has no death, so you are not really killing anybody. In fact, Atma is neither a killer, nor can it be killed, nor does it make somebody kill something and all that, he says. So death is the only thing for which we can say legitimately somebody can grieve. But even that is not really to be grieved. Like that, Bhagavan starts the teaching there. So when he says this Atma cannot be killed, what does Bhagavan say there? So he says this Dehi. First he talks about one particular body, correct? Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara. So the body initially is a baby's body. In fact, it got formed within the womb of the mother. Then that body comes out. The baby is there. Baby's body is there. I is still I. Understand that. Dehi, the indweller of the body, the conscious being is the same. Dehi, Deha. Deha keeps on changing. Dehi is the same. Whether you are a Kumara, boy, or you are a youth, Yavvanam, or you have become old, Jara. Body keeps on changing. but the indweller of the body is the same I, conscious being, invariable. Okay, so we can look at the invariable in the variable body. The body may be becoming something. It may grow initially, later on it will decline with old age. Whether it is growing or declining, it is changing. The body may be changing, but the indweller of the body is the same I. Now Bhagavan extrapolates that. Okay, in this body it is fine. What about if this body falls? Means no problem. Anyway, the individual self takes another body and continues. Self is never created. Understand that. Even the individual self is not talked about as created in our Shastra. Jiva is anadi, uncreated. Jiva is always there. Because Jiva is born about, the individual is born about because of a certain ignorance only. That ignorance also is beginningless. In fact, all ignorance is beginningless. It's very easy to understand. When we say beginningless, sometimes people have a problem understanding that. Let me simply explain that. If I ask you, do you know Chinese? How many of you know Chinese? I don't think any of you know Chinese. Or some of you may have visited China or learnt the Chinese language. I don't know. Or somebody may be even joining from China here. I have no idea. This is all internet class. Assuming you don't know Chinese, if I ask when did the Chinese ignorance start, you have to say it was always there, correct? It doesn't have a beginning. Ignorance doesn't have a beginning. Any ignorance doesn't have a beginning, understand that. But it can come to an end. Like that, this jivatvam, individuality, identifying as an individual is there. That is Naisargika, Bhagavan Bhashyakar also says that. It is there naturally, it is uncreated, beginningless. And you are taking yourself as an individual means you are taking yourself as somebody who is mortal, subjected to space-time. But in reality, you are the unchanging conscious being. The body keeps on changing. One body may fall away, another body may come. Still you are the same conscious being. Dehi. Tata dehantara praptihi, also Bhagavan says. Similarly, another body also the individual takes. As long as you think you are an individual, you have this ignorance. Even as an individual, you keep on taking different bodies, so there is no big deal, Bhagavan says. Don't think that somebody has died. Of course, that person may not come back in the same form. So that way it is irreplaceable. We have to agree with that. I am not saying. But that jiva continues. That is the teaching. But Atma, I, can never be destroyed. Why? Another interesting word is used for that. That is Avinashi. So this Atma is called Avinashi. Avinashi means what? That which can never be destroyed. Indestructible. Why it is indestructible? Anashinaha also it is called. Anashi, Avinashi are all same meaning. Anashino aprameyasya, like that Bhagavan uses the word aprameyaha. So this Atma is aprameyaha. Self is not an object of knowledge. Understand that. See, whenever we talk of knowledge, we use three words in any language. What is that? Pramata, the knower. Prameya, the object of knowledge, known. Then pramana, means of knowledge also we have to include. Like sense organs or inference. So, we have pramata, prameya and pramana. But this self is pointed out as aprameya. Bhagavan is using the word because it is aprameya, it is anashi. It cannot be destroyed because it is always the subject. In fact, it is the basis for both the subject and object. That is the teaching we have to understand. But to start with what? It is always the subject. Means it can never be objectified. That is the point being made. That which can never be objectified can never be destroyed also. Because all the destruction which we see are all of objects. Later on, Bhagavan, that's what Bhagavan will say. He will say what? You cannot drown this, you cannot burn this Atma, you cannot cut it. Achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo shoshya yevacha nitya sarvagatasthānuhu achaloyam sanatanaha. This Atma cannot be cut. You cannot burn it. You cannot dry it with wind and make it disappear. You cannot drown it in water. Why? Because Atma is never an object of knowledge. Only an object can be cut, object can be burnt, object can be drowned, object can be dried, whatever. You can keep on adding. But you are never an object. You are always the subject. That's why you are, and you are the one who is, to whom space-time is evident. Space-time is in you. You are not in space-time. That is the fundamental mistake. As soon as you wake up and take yourself as an individual, what is the mistake you make? Is that you think you are in space-time. No. Even while you are doing Vyavahara as an individual, what is the reality? What should be understood is that space-time is in me. I am not in space-time. So that is why Uta Api. So even though this Purusha has become all this entire world, can we then take this Purusha has also become, has taken the qualities of whatever we see in the world, because all worldly objects come to an end. They are all subjected to space-time and they will die in space-time. They will be destroyed. Can you say the Purusha also is like that? Means no. Uta Api, even though this Purusha has become all these things, Purusha is Amritatvasya Ishanaha, is the Lord of immortality. Amritatvasya Ishanaha. Means this Purusha is not subjected to space-time. Purusha is never an object of knowledge. Therefore can never be destroyed in any manner. I am always the eternal subject. Whatever I see is not I. This kind of a simple viveka, the discriminatory analysis you have to keep doing initially. What is that? Whatever I see is not I. I see the computer. There is no confusion there. I am not the computer. I see the mobile phone. Okay, I am attending the class through mobile phone or computer or iPad or whatever it is. I am not that. There is no confusion there. I see the clothes I am wearing. There also there is no confusion. I am not the clothes. Then what about the body? I see my body, but confusion starts from there. Okay, I see the body means I am not the body. Is that clear? Whatever I see is not I. It is an object of knowledge. It becomes evident to me. I am the conscious being who is aware of it, to whom this body becomes evident. That's very clear, correct? That's very easy to understand. It may be clear and easy to understand, but it doesn't stick unless you make some effort. This knowledge dissipates. Again, you have identity with your body. You have so many complexes. I am dark, fair, tall, whatever. I am ugly. I am handsome, beautiful, also is a problem sometimes. All my physiological processes are evident to me. So, then I am not hungry really. Hunger I am aware of. Hunger becomes evident to me. Thirst is evident to me. But I am not hungry, I am not thirsty. Hunger, thirst are all only, they are all becoming evident to me. I am the conscious being to whom all these physiological processes are becoming evident. I don't have to identify with that. Then what? Then what about all the emotions, thoughts? All thoughts are again evident to me. All emotions are evident to me. I am not the thoughts, nor all these emotions. In fact, even knowledge is evident to me. Because whenever a cognition takes place, two things are happening simultaneously, we say, as Vedantins. What is that? I see a pot, means pot is a knowledge. Then I know pot is also is a knowledge, correct? There is a cognition and there is also a recognition that I know this. Whether these two things happen at the same time simultaneously or they happen serially is a big discussion. I don't want to get into that now, but what finally you have to understand is we say both these things happen at the same time, and that is because of the witness consciousness only. So these two knowledge takes place. So I know is also actually not real. In fact, understand that. I know, I do not know. Both these things are becoming evident to whom? That conscious being is you. Knowledge becomes evident to you. Ignorance becomes evident to you. Whether the eyes are seeing becomes evident to you. Whether the eyes are not seeing becomes evident to you. Whether the nose is able to smell or not. What the nose smells is not you, definitely. What the eyes see is not you. But you are the one who knows whether the eyes are seeing or not, whether the nose are smelling or not, whether the tongue is able to taste or not, whether the touch is there or not. Is what is beautifully said, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Manaha, whether the whatever is happening in the mind is becoming evident to you. Manasaha Manaha. And the Atma can only be pointed out like this. Understand why? Because it cannot be shown to you as an object, because it is never an object of knowledge. That's why Upanishad can only teach like this. It says that you are the subject to whom everything becomes evident. That if you understand, then you will understand that even space-time is becoming evident to you. Space-time comes and goes. You are the conscious being who is limitless, who is not subjected to space-time, whose nature never changes. You are always the conscious being. You are the invariable in every cognition. That's why you are limitless. And you are immortal because you have no transcended space-time. You are the Lord of space-time, Lord of the rings and all they say like that. You are the Lord of this entire space-time. But tragedy is you think you are in space-time. So now that also is said here. Yadannena atirohati. Okay, so this Purusha who is really immortal, but why did this Purusha then become all this means? We have to say something, correct? So this Purusha only, see, Purusha is both the potential form and the manifest form. Unmanifest, manifest. Like that we say. Purusha in fact transcends both the unmanifest and the manifest. But when you look at the world, we say that world right now is differentiated in a manifest form. That's why it is available for transaction, available for cognition. But world can also be in an unmanifest state. Before all these things became manifest, it was potentially there. That also we can understand with our own experience of 3 states. Everything is resolved unmanifest in deep sleep. There is no subject-object division. Then again, when you wake up or when you wake up into a dream world, it is all manifest, differentiated. Like that. So why did this manifestation happen means? So here Anna, see Anna means that which you, Atti iti Anna, or Adyate iti Anna also you can say, both way. So that which is consumed, not only just food. Anna can also refer to all the stimuli which you consume, really, correct? Everything which you consume through all the sense organs. Or in another way you can say it is the karma phala. All karma phala can be called as Anna here. So the karma phala, the karma is there for the jiva. And that means that karma has to be exhausted. And it can be exhausted only by upabhogena, like that we say, by experiencing that karma phala. Therefore, this Purusha only, who is everything, is now manifest. Atirohati is now appearing as all this karma phala, upabhogya, whatever is to be experienced, all that, this Purusha, it appears as all these things because the karma phala has to be exhausted. For that purpose alone it is appearing, but in reality it is Amritatvasya Ishanaha. It is the Lord of immortality, which is not even subjected to space-time. That is you, in fact. The self, which is invariable in every cognition, is not subjected to space-time, but still it appears as all that is here, which can be called Anna here, because that is what we are all experiencing. Whatever we are experiencing here is appearing in that form. And whatever is appearing here does not really cover it, you can say, totally, correct? Or it doesn't disappear because it has appeared as all these things, it has not disappeared yet. So atirohati means tirodhanam nagachati also we can say. It does not become, this Purusha does not disappear. Even though the Purusha has appeared as all these things, Purusha is still Purusha, correct? The gold does not disappear just because it has become a bangle or chain or anything. Like that, that is the main point here which is being conveyed. This Purusha only is now appearing as all these things, whatever is to be experienced by different jiva. But it has not disappeared in that, correct? It's still the same Purusha. Without losing its very nature, it is appearing as all these things. That is its mahima. So continuing what? Etavanasya mahima. So this entire Srishti is the glory of this Purusha. Okay, mahima. All glorious Srishti. Entire thing is all glory. Okay. So Purusha is the one who is appearing as everything. That is the glory. All that is here, whatever we see, is the glory of the Purusha. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, there is one whole chapter called Vibhuti Yoga. So Vibhuti means glory of the Lord only, Mahima. There Bhagavan says, whatever you think is special, all that is me only. All the, of course, Bhagavan is everything, whether it is special or not special. But we have a certain attraction towards certain things, what we consider as glorious and special and all that. Bhagavan says, even all that is me only. I am only manifest as all the special things in whichever category you take. All the Mahima is Mahima only. That has to be appreciated. So here, Yetavanasya Mahima. So all that is here, this Purusha only is appearing as all these things. So this is all its glory. But again, here the Veda is making very clear what Ataha Jayagumscha Purushaha Jayan Ataha Jayan Cha Purushaha. So this Purusha is greater than even that Jayan. So all this whole Srishti, everything that is there here, including space-time, is all the glory of this Purusha. But this Purusha is greater than that glory also, greater than that. Because it transcends, correct? That was already said, Atyatishtat Dashangulam. Now that is being again reinforced, clarified. So you can say that this entire Srishti is the Mahima of this Purusha. Then what about the Purusha? Means that Purusha is greater than all these things. Whatever you can consider as manifest and unmanifest, it is different from that, it is greater than that. So even in Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan says, I have a para prakriti, apara prakriti and all that. Okay. Then he says, Uttama Purushastu Anyaha. So there is a manifest world, unmanifest also is there, but Purusha, the conscious being, is neither manifest nor unmanifest. It is in fact asanga. It is not really connected with any of the. Although all these appearances are there, all the names and forms are there, they really do not count. They are all mithya. That which comes and goes, which has dependent existence, is not really there in fact. What is there always, invariable, that alone is Satyam, unchanging, invariable. That is only the conscious being, which is you. You are the only one who is unchanging in every cognition. And you are Satyam. All others are only Mithya. They are all dependent reality. You are the absolute reality. Satyam. Sadeva Satyam, like that also Upanishad says. Satyam is an ontological term. You have to understand it like that. Because Satyam means Trikale api tishtati, we say. That which is there always. That which never changes its nature. That which is invariable, indestructible, like that. That is you. You are the only one. So you transcend everything. And that is in fact a glory in itself. So if you take this entire manifestation of names and forms as a glory, you transcend that. You are greater than that. You are not just the name and form. You are the reality. You are the substance of everything that is there here. You are the reality. You are the one who gives existence to everything. You are that conscious being. So you are greater. Ataha Jaya Gumscha Purushaha. Again, this Jaya Gumscha is Jayan Cha. That becomes like that. When pronounced Jayanscha, it will become in regular Sanskrit. And then while chanting, we say Jaya Gumscha. But there is no Gakara or all that there. That is simply a chanting rule, or how we chant it. So this Purusha is greater than this manifest world. Now that is clarified here. Now what does it say further? Padaha asya vishwa bhutani asya purushasya. So this Purusha who is under discussion now, for that Purusha, this entire universe, the manifest universe, the unmanifest, everything is only, and all the bhutas means all the beings here. Bhuta means all the being we can take, or Mahabhutani also you can take. All that is here, all that is manifest, all the beings. Vishwa Bhutani Asya Padaha, they are all only 1/4 of this Purusha. So this quarter and all is not, we should not take it literally. The idea is that these things are only names and forms. They are mithya. They are just appearances which do not limit the Purusha in any manner. So they are all only one pada. Then what about the other 3/4 then? If you say this is only 1/4, then obviously immediate question is, what about the other 3/4? The other 3/4, what? Tripadasya Amritan Divi. Okay. Asya Tripat Amritan Divi. So the other 3/4 are Amritam, immortal again, not subjected to space-time. It transcends everything. It is Divi. Divi means what? Again, Jyotanatmaka. Divi means you should not think that it is there in Swarga. I don't know, some people may give a meaning that this Bhagavan is sitting in Swarga as the immortal being and you have to then go there. You have to go to Golok Vrindavan, Vaikunta, Kailasha and all that. No, it is not like that. Here Divi means what? Bhagavan Swarupa is Chaitanya Swarupa. Only the consciousness alone really shines, correct? Everything else shines after. Even in our temple when we do the Arati, what do we chant? Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Like that we chant. In fact, this particular mantra is there in both the Upanishads, the Mundaka Upanishad and Kathopanishad. So natatra suryo bhati, sun really does not shine. Although we think that sun is the one which gives light and makes everything visible for us, but the one sun also has to be known, correct? The one to which the sun becomes evident, that consciousness alone really shines. So sun really does not shine, neither the moon. If the sun is not there at night, moon shines, if you say. What if the moon is not there? Then stars are there, you can say. Okay, even on an Amavasya day, stars are there. Taraka. No, stars are also not there, means what? Lightning is there, Vidyut. So, natatra suryo bhatina chandra tarakam nema vidyuto ima vidyut bhanti kutaha agnihi. Then, if nothing is there, you can always light up a fire, correct? Fire is there. Even this fire is not there means what? This Atma alone is shining always. This consciousness never sleeps. In fact, it is called alupta drik because its very nature is to be conscious. Consciousness is not a quality. You are a conscious being, means even the word consciousness and all we are only using to indicate that you are not jada or insentient. But that's not a quality which is sitting in you. You are. That is your very nature. And to that only everything becomes evident. That is the only thing which is really shining. Everything else shines after. That is you. That is your Swarupa. So, this conscious being alone is always shining. Everything else shines, then it also goes away. But this Brihadaranyaka also, there is a beautiful Vakya there. It says that the seer of never ceases. I translate it like that in English. Okay. The seer of the sight means already I told you, whether I see or not is known to me. I am that conscious being to whom it becomes evident that whether I am seeing or not, whether the eyes are seeing or not, whether I know or I don't know, that becomes evident to whom? That consciousness is me. So that is what is called seer of sight. Sight itself is happening or not, that becomes evident to whom? That conscious being is you. That seer of sight never ceases means what it? Because it's your very nature to be conscious, it never stops. It never comes to an end. And since it is always the seer, the subject, which can never be objectified, so it can never be destroyed also. It never comes to an end. It's unceasing. It never stops. Viparilopo na vidyate, like that Brihadaranyaka says. It never comes to an end. Because that is your very nature. You are that conscious being. And again, I told you that you can never be objectified. You are the subject. In fact, you need not be objectified because you are self-effulgent. Swaprakasha. This Divi word here really is pointing out that you are Swaprakasha. You don't have to be objectified to know yourself. If I ask any of you, do you know yourself? Everybody will say yes, yes, yes. How did you know yourself? Which means of knowledge did you use to know yourself? Did you use Pratyaksha to know I am there? Do you have to see yourself to know that I am there? Do you have to hear yourself to know that you are there? Do you have to smell yourself to know you are there? Do you have to touch yourself to know you are there? Nothing like that. Because I am there, I am seeing. Because I am there, I am smelling. Like that, do you do? Or because I am married, I have to be there. Do you do an inference like this? In fact, my existence is always there. It is implied in any transaction, in any cognition, in anything. As the subject, I am always there. And I don't have to use any means of knowledge to know myself. That is what we call Swaprakasha. Everything else, you have to know by using some means of knowledge, correct? You have to use a sense organ, or at least you cognize something, and then based on that you do inference. Even though you may not directly cognize, you can infer. Indirectly you can infer. So to know something, some object, we have to always use a means of knowledge. But what about yourself? You are Swaprakasha, Swayam Prakasha, self-revealing, self-existent, self-revealing. That is your nature. That nature never goes away. Because it is your nature, in fact. It is not some quality or something incidentally sticking to you. That is what you are. Prajnana Ghanaha, like that also the Upanishad says. Means you are consciousness alone. Wherever you go, you are consciousness alone. Wherever you go means what? In whichever way you look at yourself. Your very nature is of being a conscious entity. That consciousness is not something which is an incidental quality on you, but it is your very nature. That is what you are. And that makes you the one who is self-revealing. You don't have to use any means of knowledge to know yourself. Your existence is revealed automatically, correct? Without the use of any means of knowledge. In fact, since you are there only, you can use any means of knowledge to know something else. But all objects are not like that. They have to be revealed to you through a means of knowledge. So they are all shining after. That's why we say. But you shine. Always you are shining. Whether something is there to be seen or not, you are still shining. That's why even in deep sleep, really the consciousness does not stop shining or does not stop being conscious. The status of being a subject is not there. That's all. Understand that. Because the status of being a subject is dependent on an object being there. So the subject object itself is a mutually dependent reality. It rises together when you wake up. And in deep sleep, both subject and object are resolved, but the consciousness is still the same consciousness. It is shining as always. It never comes to an end. That consciousness is you. And as that consciousness, you are limitless. Everything is in you. Space-time is in you. All the objects are nothing but you. In fact, you are not the meaning of any one word. And you are the meaning of all the words also. That is the beauty here. So that's what we have to understand. The same thing, in fact, it continues. Kripad urdhva udhait purushaha pado osyeha bhavat punaha. So already it said asya amritan divi tripat asya padaha vishwa bhutani. The same thing, only it is reinforcing again. This next trick also. And from this only this entire world came. Again it starts, it talks about how this manifestation of this world is going to happen. Tato vishvam vyakramate sashanana shane abhi. So again there is an interesting categorization here as sashana and anashana. So all these things we will see next week. We will continue with this. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.
धन्यवादः गुरुजी.